Initiating boot sequence. Welcome to the debut of System Overload. I am your host, Vermazing. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify or even just listening in, I will be displaying images and talking about things on screen that I will be referencing to, but I will be explaining what the image is in detail. So, getting into the topic, we're not going to waste any time here. For the last year, we've watched the Gundam Card Game grow. We've watched the sets drop, and we've watched the community search for a soul. But as we stand here in May 2026, post the World Tournament for 2025 through 2026, I have to ask, are we playing a game of tactical mastery, or are we just running an efficient algorithm? Systems are online. Let's audit the game state of the Gundam card game. So for this first segment, we are going to be talking about what happened at Worlds. Normally with a new card game, you have your limitations. You have a short list of cards to pull from, and decks can be scarce. With a limited card pool, some people seem to find the answer and run with it, and then others sort of hop on the tail end like a bandwagon. But let's talk about what happened in March. The World Championship Series for Bandai and the Gundam card game, we saw some of the top decks doing something, I would say, amazing, but words escape me for how to really emphasize how I feel about this. So let's look at some of the top decks. We're going to be using Eggman events for this. And if you're not watching, you can follow along. So in the Gundam card game, you have quite a few colors at this point in time. You can build a deck based on up to 2 colors, not limited to just one. But the current colors that we have are blue, green, red, purple, and white. So that's 5 colors that you can build a deck around. Within our top numbers for March 16th, 2026, the first tournament series, we saw blue dominate more than anything else. And while, yes, the top 4 were blue-purple, and within even the top 16, there were more decks that were blue-purple, the underlining message is that blue as a color dominated. Now, in most other card games, this is normal, right? Blue would dominate because blue is your somewhat resource generator. You need cards in your hand, blue draws them for you. Blue is usually a color of intelligence, usually a color of information seeking, right? But when you have the biggest stage, plus 2,000 players, I don't even remember the exact numbers. There were way more from around the world. To have your top cut be pretty much the same deck with a lack of options. Some can wave that off and say, okay, limited card pool. There were 3 sets in, a bunch of starter decks. That's normal, right? That's normal. In the Gundam card game, there is a mechanical issue that we need to address. And this is moving to our second segment, because I wanted to talk about that as the ground ruling segment to tell you that this game is looking like a normal card game. If you're used to the competitive scene for a brand new card game, that's normal. There's always going to be one deck that just flat out stands out, or one type of color combination that stands out. But let's look at this mechanically. So if we mechanically audit the monopoly of draw in this game, you will see that even after Worlds coming out, after Worlds being done, we're moving on to the next season. We have set 4 that dropped, more starter decks, another booster box. The lovely folks at Eggman Events, they have laid out some great details, and shout outs to them first and foremost. This is not a video or a podcast to bash anybody or anything specific. We're just covering the mechanics of the game and how these things are working, or how they're not working. In this case, when we look at what is currently the top rankings that were done by the community, by the Eggman team, we can see here that blue and white are so overwhelmingly present that it would make you think, why is there no other color combinations? If you were just to look at these rankings, every deck is playing either white or blue. Now, to someone who's been playing this game coming up on the 1-year anniversary in July, you would say, well, those people want to win. If you don't know about this card game and what's going on with card games overall, or maybe you're just peeking in to get some interest or get some understanding, you would wonder, well, hold up here. Earlier, he named 5 different colors. So if we have blue, green, red, purple, and white, why is it that, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these 10 decks that are being ranked, all of them have white in them as a color. 2 of them do not have white as a color. But majority of them have blue as a color. So you'd be wondering, well, why aren't there any other color pairings? Why is there no red-green? Why is there no green-purple? Why is there no red-purple? Why is there no red-blue? Right? And that's because the way that the designers or the team at Bandai that's in charge of the Gundam card game, they have created a mechanical issue that is the draw monopoly. There are only 2 legit colors that allow you to draw cards, that being white and blue. Purple has conditional draw, meaning you have to play this tribe or you have to play this mechanic in order to be rewarded with a draw, and it's very limiting and very situational. Red only gives you 2 options. Those options are, you can play this one card that allows you to do it once with the heavy restriction of only discarding a red card in order to draw a card. The other one being an equally as heavy restriction, saying this pilot has to be connected to a unit that it links to, I'll explain that more later, in order for you to discard and draw 1 card. Purple also has that same restriction for a couple of their pilots. But getting back into this, let's say you wanted to play a color or card that is not within these color restrictions. Well, excuse me. That is within these color restrictions, but is missing something. So we're going to use the Gundam card database as an example for anyone who is watching. We're going to look at a card by the name of Gundam Savior, or Savior Gundam. Oops, went to the wrong one. ST09. ST09 was a starter deck. If you were a fan of this game or this IP in general, and you were to look at this card, you would say, this card is amazing. Let me read off the specs for you. And for those who are not aware of the card game in general, or maybe you are and you just are following along. The Savior Gundam is a level 6, 5 cost. I'm going to explain this briefly. The level means I have this much mana or this many resources. The cost is the cost. In other card games like Magic the Gathering, the cost of the card and the level of the card are the exact same thing. If a card costs 6 mana, it is a level 6 that costs 6. The Gundam card game changes the cost to make things a little more fun, a little more diverse. All right, so its effects are, before we get into its stats, the effects of this card are Breach, which is similar to Trample, if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering. Breach says, when this unit attacks and destroys an enemy unit, deal the damage specified by the amount to the first card in that opponent's shield area. So I attack a unit, I destroy it, I deal 3, because this says Breach 3, to their shield or base card, whichever one is the first one in the area closest to me, the opponent, furthest away from the player that I'm attacking. Okay, that's a great effect. I personally love that effect. Awesome. Very rewarding. The next effect, which completely derails this card from being competitive or from seeing a bigger audience, which limits this to just being a casual card. The effect says when linked. Linked meaning you have to have the pilot, Atherin Zala, connected to this card, somewhat like an enchantment or an aura if you're coming from other card games. If there are 5 or more purple cards in your trash, deal 2 damage to all units with 5 or less attack points. Right now, the Savior Gundam has a base stat line of 5 attack and 4 health. When you connect the pilot, Atherin Zala, to it and link it, Atherin makes it a 6/6. 6 attack, 6 health. This is a great stat line, and it's a great card. But here's the problem. This card is essentially banned from competitive play. And I don't mean banned in a sense of no one's allowed to play it because it was so good that it destroyed the competition, that people revolted and got torches and pitchforks against this card. No. I mean banned in a sense that it will never be played, probably ever, in a large competitive setting. So if you were to buy the starter deck that this came from and you got 4 copies of it, you built out that starter deck all the way, red and purple, you would never be able to see any type of success with that deck. Why is that? Let's get into what we were talking about before. The draw monopoly. The reason for this segment. The draw monopoly is In order to play a simple card like Overflowing Affection, and for those who are following along, we're going to bring up Overflowing Affection. Overflowing Affection is a simple card that says pay 1 resource, draw 2 cards, discard 1. Why is this card so important? Not because of the draw 2 cards, but more importantly for the discard 1, because this starter deck is a reanimator deck. It's a necromancy deck. I'm using broad terms so that you can understand. A necromancy deck, meaning you're going to get cards back from the graveyard. You're going to get cards back from your discard pile, whatever you want to call it. In the Gundam card game, it's referred to as trash. I hate that term. It feels very disrespectful. I would have preferred if they called it a junkyard, but I digress. So, what is it you want to discard? Well, you actually want to discard the Savior Gundam. And you're wondering now, why would I want to discard this awesome card to the graveyard, the junkyard, discard pile, whatever? Because inside of this deck, you have the Force Impulse Gundam. Let me read to you the effects of the Force Impulse Gundam. It states, destroyed being the tag. So when this card is destroyed either by battle or by card effect, choose 1 Minerva Squad unit without Force Impulse Gundam in its name from your trash and add it to your hand. Now that is a great card. Why? Force Impulse is a level 5 4-cost card with 5 attack and 4 health. So, when that dies, if I discarded my Savior Gundam, I can get Savior back to my hand. So it's no longer a void of cards that I can never use again, being my graveyard, my discard pile, my trash. It's no longer a void that I can't touch. It means it's an extension of my hand to a degree. What else makes this starter deck work? Because honestly, this starter deck is a masterpiece. You have this cycle of mechanics that work. The problem is, as I stated earlier, you can only have 2 colors in a deck at a time. The main point of this deck, the Minerva Squad themselves, are a purple deck at base. The Savior Gundam is the only red card listed under the Minerva Squad. So if I was to put in the Overflowing Affection that lets us draw 2 cards, discard 1, I now miss out on massive synergy for this deck. And if you're thinking 1 card can't make that big of a difference, oh, it does. It really does. And that's the issue with the Gundam card game. If you're not playing white or blue, you don't have access to draw. You don't have access to recovery. You don't have access to setup. There is no search in the Gundam card game. What they consider search is look at the top 3 cards of your deck, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 card to your hand, put the rest at the bottom. That's not search. That's filtering. Let's be honest. A search card, like in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or other card games, you play a card and it says, search your deck. Keywords, search your deck for card of blank, add from deck to hand. That's a search card, right? That is what you want. Now, since we've covered what this is talking about, let's talk about the other problem with this. So we've identified, if you're not playing white or blue, this deck does not work on a competitive level. Does every deck have to be competitive? No. No, it does not. Can I sleeve up this starter deck, STO9, and play with my friends and have fun? Absolutely. But what we're talking about is moving past the casual standpoint. If you loved this deck out the box and you identify with it, you're a fan of the Minerva Squad, Shin Asuka, Atherin Zala. If you like the red-purple build, you find the glaring weakness in this deck, and that there is no recovery, there's no setup, there's nothing to help you get past the dead draw that you're going to hit. Because while other decks are drawing cards, playing units, going all out, filling up the field, setting obstacles for you to get around, controlling the board state, you're sitting there miserable. Absolutely miserable. And I speak from experience. This is one situation I have experienced because I was so excited for Shin. He's one of my favorite characters from Seed Destiny. And when I saw how they paired up the necromancy style of this deck, not to say in the anime he was a necromancer, but in card game mechanics, him being able to switch out parts to adjust his Gundam to be a sword impulse Gundam or a blast impulse Gundam. They made it so that you can bring those cards back from the trash. So you can filter and cycle through your deck, your graveyard, your hand, what's on the field. You have options. I love that. I thought that was great. The game needs more of this. But what the game does not need more of are these heavy restrictions. If you're following me so far and you can feel the frustration, it's because this isn't just coming from me. This is coming from many players around the world that are dealing with this. So, what are some ways to fix this? Let's talk about our next segment, because that was a perfect segue into our next segment, being the July horizon. In July, we look ahead to July 24th, the Freedom Ascension GDO5 box. Here, they also have something known as a deck build box. Now, before I get into the details of the deck build box, if you're coming from other card games like Magic the Gathering, there was something very similar, which was called the Deck Builder's Toolkit. The Deck Builder's Toolkit was this great piece of product. If you've been playing Magic the Gathering for a long time, around the early 2000s, mid 2010s, around there, you know that the Deck Builder's Toolkit was an amazing piece of product that just gave you the essentials you needed to build decks, to stay competitive, or to have as a great gift for someone who's just getting into the game. Hey, you like this deck, you built it, you got some cards, you assembled a starter deck, here's a Deck Builder's Toolkit. It comes with all the lands you need, comes with the staples you need to take that deck to the next level. It comes with all the essentials, right? Everything you would need in each color, tokens, etc. Now, you may hear this and think, oh, well, if this is what Bandai is thinking of doing, if this is what the Gundam Card Game team is doing, This should be a great piece of work. This should be exactly what players need to change things around. From hearing about the restrictions in deck building, how everything is based around drawing cards, right? Unfortunately, no. The deck build box, I can tell you right now, is not a fix to the current issue of the game, which would be great. A legitimate fix to the game, which is not ban list or restrictions. A honest 100% fix to the Gundam card game in its current state would be applying support to all colors. Having the ability to draw and search, having the diversity, having the diversity to expand on your colors. Maybe expand on the IP that your deck is in, or that your favorite series is based off of. Maybe your favorite mobile suit and where it's located. Maybe your favorite pilot and what series they come from. Being able to build anything in any color, having that stability, would be the fix to the Gundam card game. It would be hands down the best upgrade they could do for all players. New, old, people who are just getting in, maybe people who just want to get in, maybe people who want to take this from a casual to a competitive standpoint, maybe people who just want to have a reason to get into the game. This would be the answer. But let me tell you what the deck build box is. The deck build box is actually a reprint of cards that came out in starter decks. So let's bring up the issue on hand. We were just talking about the draw monopoly, how white and blue are the only ones who have legitimate draw cards, right? And drawing in games is powerful. You want to see more options. You want to refill your hand as much as possible. You want to never be empty on resources unless your deck is built to do that, to where you have no hand and you're getting a benefit from it. You want to be rewarded for playing the game. You want to do the cool thing. You want to have the awesome moment. Drawing cards allows you to do that. Overflowing affection being one of them. I'm just focusing on this one right now. There are more. A show of resolve, curiosity. There's other cards. But overflowing affection and a show of resolve, the cards that say draw two, are locked behind starter decks. Now, being locked behind a starter deck doesn't make that a great barrier for entry for most people. If there's a shortage on print, or if maybe a store in their area just didn't get enough, boxes or product, maybe someone wouldn't be able to build that deck. But then you would say there's booster boxes. That's what booster boxes are for. That's why there are named boosters. You're supposed to take a starter deck, buy a booster box, and enhance that starter deck. Enhance your idea. Enhance your strategy. Unfortunately, that's not how this card game works. So when you take a card like Overflowing Affection that's limited to starter decks, you think, well, it had to appear at some point in time in a booster box, right? Yes, it did. It actually did. It appeared in one booster box as a chase card. And let me give you the breakdown in case you're overseas or you're in another country, you're not in America. The booster box that it came out in, the chase card version, alternate art, extremely rare. if you got lucky on the low end buying a pack at $5 to $10 MSRP US currency, you might get lucky and you might pull one. That's awesome. You have a very low chance, let's say a 10% chance of pulling it in a pack, a random pack, or maybe a reward pack, or maybe a booster pack that was given to you as a way of saying thank you for showing up to our local store. Or maybe you bought one just to, gamble. A box being at roughly a little over $100 US currency, you stand a also 10% chance of pulling that card from a random box. So you may think, how do you increase your chance? Well, you can buy a sealed case at roughly over $1,200 US, $1,200 plus tax and whatever else. You could have a 50% chance to pull one of them. Just one. So that makes this game pay to win, essentially. And I'm not going to cover pay to win aesthetics or the mentality behind pay to win. I'm saying if you were a person who was on a casual level having fun and you were not able to buy into a starter deck that had these cards, and I'm not even talking about just the draw cards, because we're talking about pilots too. Pilots are also limited to starter decks. Most of the major pilots like Shin Asuka, Atherin Zala, Kira Yamato, Amuro Ray, Char Aznable, these main pilots that everyone knows are limited to only being able to get them in starter decks. And when 50% of a booster box has cards that specifically target these pilots, and you don't have the cards from the starter deck, how are you supposed to play that? Literally, how are you supposed to play? You have cards that you can't use, so you have to use what's in the booster box. And the booster box is a whole different topic. Completely different topic. But let's talk about our next segment, because this is actually a perfect segue to our next segment, which is the ghost in the cockpit. The identity crisis of this game. So if we're building these decks around our favorite characters, our favorite mobile suits, our favorite Gundams, our favorite moments in a show or a movie, who are we? Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about, just in case you're confused. In Magic the Gathering, you are a planeswalker. You are a magician, you are a mage, you are a warlock, you are a witch. You are a character of power. And you're building a deck because this deck is your book of spells. Just saying that sounds cool, doesn't it? I am building a 50 or 100 card deck, depending on what type of Magic you're playing. Well, technically a 99 card deck if you're playing Commander. But I am building a deck of spells to play on the battlefield against my opponents, who are also planeswalkers. My opponent is also a planeswalker. The player has an identity. So if the player has an identity, you can have, I don't want to say the immersion, but you have the idea of what fantasy you're in. What kind of book of spells are you creating? What type of spells are you casting? What type of creatures are you summoning? Are you summoning other players, other NPCs that are also planeswalkers to fight alongside of you, right? This is some powerful stuff when you're thinking about a card game identity. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you are a duelist. You're playing other duelists. You're assembling a deck of monsters that will help you win in a competitive scene. In Pokemon, you are a trainer, traveling the world, battling other trainers in order to be the best, right? In Gundam, ... question mark. And while you may think, well, that's weird. Why would you bring that up? Because there is an aspect to this game that is undefined. You're not a pilot. You're not an ace. You're not a new type. You're not a coordinator. Who are you, the player, in this game? Literally, who are you? The reason why I bring this up is because why are you assembling a deck of mobile suits, of Gundams, of mass-produced mobile suits even? Why are you on the battlefield? Why do you, the player, have 1 health point built into the rules of the game? For those of you that aren't aware of the Gundam card game, it works a little bit differently than other card games. Similar to some other Bandai card games, but different. You have your field, you have your resource deck, you have the battlefield itself where you play your units. You have a base that protects you, the player. When that base is destroyed, you as a player have 6 shields. And you as a player have 1 health point. Which makes sense if you know anything about Gundams or mecha or giant robot anime. You would not survive being stepped on by a 500 to 1,000 meter tall piece of machinery. So yeah, you only have 1 life point. If you get shot at by a mobile suit, you're gone. If you get stepped on, you're gone. If they boost past you, the thrusters could burn you. There is no point in you surviving a fight against a giant mech, right? But who are you? Who are you, the player? Are you a general? Are you a lieutenant? Are you the captain of some ship? Like the Archangel? Like the Vesalius? Like the Minerva? Who are you? The reason why I bring this up is because when you think about this game like that, why am I playing other pilots? Normally, in Gundam, video games even, you're the pilot in this suit, in this mech, right? Let's take Gundam Versus as an example. Gundam Versus is a team v team game similar to Marvel Rivals or Overwatch, but more fast-paced, very limiting in an arena, right? If I pick, for example, the Freedom Gundam in Gundam Versus, I am either playing as Kira Yamato or I am just piloting the Freedom Gundam on the battlefield. I am a coordinator or a new type. It's my mobile suit. I just happen to have it for some strange reason. I'm on the battlefield fighting against other pilots. In a card game, Why am I doing that? Why am I employing, or I should say not employing, but why am I deploying the Freedom Gundam to the field? What is my purpose to have the Freedom Gundam and its many versions in this card game? Why am I deploying it to the field? What is the reason that I have for that? There isn't one. There literally isn't one. Why? Because we as players are a ghost. Think about that. This isn't some high level philosophical artistic way of looking at things. We are literally a ghost. We have no identity. No one sees us. We don't know why our opponent is there. We don't know why we are assembling this team to fight someone else. We don't know if we're a general. Why are we in this base? Why are we behind shields? Why are we using these Gundams or mobile suits to attack our opponents? There's no identity. When you have a lack of identity like that, it leads to glaring issues with the mechanics of the game. Because in other card games, let's stop talking about Magic for a second. Let's say Star Wars Unlimited. In Star Wars Unlimited, I can play as Darth Revan. I can play as Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. I can play as Grogu, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Boba Fett. I can play as these characters. Old Republic, Empire era, recent sequels, etc. Right? And it makes sense. I'm picking a base because that's the base that we're in at the time for this fight. Whether if it's in the sky, it's on a planet, it's in space. That's the base I'm at. That's the persona I'm taking on. I am Mace Windu, and I am playing on my side of the field from the Jedi Temple in Coruscant. I have these ships, I have these units, I am the commander of an army in the Star Wars universe. So when I deploy my Mace Windu to the field, or I play another one from my hand onto the field, I am representing that I am trying to take charge of the battlefield. I have an objective. I have a purpose. When I play the Gundam card game and I deploy Atherin Zala, that means nothing. I want you to take that in. That means nothing. Because in this game, pilots aren't leaders. They're not commanders. They're not you. You're not role-playing as them. You're putting out a pilot onto a unit that's been fighting as an automaton this whole time, which also doesn't make sense for the IP and the franchise. So if I deploy my Gundam Savior and I attack with it, who's piloting it? Literally, who's piloting it? It's not Atherin, because I haven't played Atherin yet. So what's happening here? There is a major discourse between the lore, the mechanics, the IP, the identity of the game, the identity of the player, the identity of the cards, the identity of the roles that these cards should be playing, and the colors that they are in. I'm going to let you think about that for a moment. Because if things were different, and I'm going to use this as a segue into something a little different. The 1 year anniversary For Gundam's 1-year anniversary, they will be releasing in GDO5 Mobile Fighter G-Gundam, which will be joining the Gundam Card Game. And while the fan in me is completely ecstatic, jumping for joy, I cried when I heard the music play, when they made the announcement. Tears ran down my face because I am so excited. I love Mobile Fighter G-Gundam. But the adult in me is looking at this as a reason to just walk away from this card game and never play it again. Here's why. Even though they announced Domon Kashu, Shining Gundam, and the Shuffle Alliance, they announced that the primary color of the Shuffle Alliance will be white. And while you may think this is great, right? Because if you look at the top decks in the game currently at this time, thanks to Eggman and his crew, you would see that 8 decks currently in the top 10 all run white or have white in them. And since G-Gundam is going to be in the white color base, that means I have draw, right? So that's great. I should be winning. I should be happy. But why am I not happy? And this is not about me. I'm just using this as an example. I'm using myself as an example for why this can go wrong. Why am I not excited about this? Because they're going to destroy the identity of G-Gundam. This is a prediction. They have not spoiled anything. Spoiler season is not upon us yet for the next set. I have a feeling that this deck, this archetype for Mobile Fighter G-Gundam is going to be not anything revolutionary, but more of the same. How we talked about you can only play these colors because they have draw. It's more than that. You can only play these colors because they have blockers as well. White and blue and purple have the most blockers. If you're not familiar with the term blocker, it's a card that can block the attack of another card on the field. So if my opponent attacks with a unit, I can, using a card that has the tag blocker on it, which if you're watching, I can pull one up. The Freedom Gundam. It has the tag blocker on it, which means it can stop that attack. It can redirect that attack towards itself to protect me, the ghost person in the back who's calling the shots, that has no name, no face, no identity, no nothing. No rank or title, anything like that. It can stop that attack from coming at me and go to this unit instead. And the majority of these units are in white. Why does that seem like a bad thing? Because I'm thinking Rising Gundam will be a blocker. Rain won't be a actual pilot card. She'll be a hybrid pilot card. She'll be something of a card that has command and pilot on it at the same time. Let's go to Phantom Aria for a second here on the screen and pull up a command pilot. It's just the first one that comes up, which they're usually in the back. All right, so you have your generic pilots. Let's use Lauren since Lauren's in white. Lauren is a pilot card. Its only purpose is to attach to a unit, give it stats like attack, bonus defense, bonus health, and an effect. An effect could be draw a card or untap a resource, return a unit on the enemy side to their hand, deal a damage as effect damage, something like that, right? That's the only purpose of that pilot. Otherwise, it is a dead card. It cannot go on the field by itself like a planeswalker can in Magic the Gathering. It cannot assist you in any other type of way. Well, we have command pilots. I'm just going to use Sophie as an example. Sophie is a witch from Earth. And if that entices you or intrigues you, welcome to Gundam. But Sophie is a witch from Earth. She is a command pilot, meaning she's a command first, a spell card, a sorcery card, sorcery speed, if you're familiar with Magic. She has an effect. She does not get that effect by piloting a mobile suit or a Gundam. She only gets that effect from the hand being played as a spell card. So what is her effect? Choose one friendly academy unit during this turn. Reduce the next damage it receives by 2. If you use an EX resource to play this card, reduce that damage by 4 instead. She has the tags Academy. It's a trait. She also has Dawn of Fold as a trait. Now, traits are something that connect people or units from a particular IP or series. So since the Witch of Mercury focused on an academy for students to learn how to become mobile suit pilots, academy is where they were, so they all get the trait Academy because that's where they are in the series. Dawn of Fold is the faction in which she's from. She is a witch from Earth, a part of the Dawn of Fold faction or group. So since Sophie can do all this, Rain might be something like this, where they reduce her importance to the set, being Domon's love interest and a mentor to Domon as well. Instead of her being a full-on pilot, they might make her into a command pilot, where her only use is to reduce the damage that Domon would take by 1 or 2, and also link with the Rising Gundam and give it +1/+1 or 0+1, right? Why is that a bad thing? While generally that would be a great thing. That would be something for the masses to celebrate about, right? Oh, we got G-Gundam, we're happy. For executives, it would be, hey, give the people what they want. Let them spend their money on our product. For the dev team, it would be, hey, man, we did the best we could to get these cards in this game, the way it was designed, the way it was made. Thank you for enjoying our hard work. For me, the fan of Mobile Fighter G-Gundam, I say you didn't do good enough. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way, because I will never be able to build the deck that I want to build with the way that they're making cards, the way that they are, like this. So what are some more examples of that, of what I'm talking about, right? If we look at something like Turn A right now, this card on screen, Flat, which is a mobile suit, it has the blocker tag. It is a level 3, 2 cost, 2 attack, 4 health. I think that when G-Gundam is released in the next set in July for the 1-year anniversary, these stats and this cost will stay the same, but the name of the card will change. And I think that this will be the Rising Gundam. Or because Mobile Fighter G-Gundam was a anime series based off of mechs in the rise of fighting games like Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat and King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, etc. Since that is the identity of the set, they will give a card like the Gundam Maxter blocker because it's an interaction. And that is the only reason. So if you're looking at this card going, I don't get it. What do you mean? Or you get it and you see exactly what I mean. Let me go into a little bit more detail. There are two types of outcomes that can happen for the Gundam Maxter. The Gundam Maxter was piloted by Chibbity Crockett from Neo US, right? The Neo version of the USA. He was a boxer. His Gundam was a boxing type. In this type of card game, how do you create an interaction amongst fighting types? Blocker. Breach. Right? Trample, essentially. So when it comes to the Gundam Maxter, my first thought is, oh, they're going to turn that into a really cheap blocker. A level 3, 2 cost Gundam Maxter blocker as its only effect with 2 HP and 2 AP attack points, 4 HP. Sorry, let me correct myself. And then the Rising Gundam could be something like a level 3, 2 cost blocker 3/3. 3 attack, 3 health. Or 3 attack, 2 health because it's the Rising Gundam and it was kind of a prototype. So that's something that causes me concern. As a fan of the game, I don't want something generic. I don't want something that's going to just be run of the mill for my favorite IP, my favorite franchise, my favorite series. I don't want something generic. I want something cool. And they already announced that Domon Kashu, the main character of Mobile Fighter G-Gundam, is going to be in white. So what can I expect to see? Blocker. Maybe Shining Gundam will have suppression. Maybe it'll have first strike. Maybe it'll have breach. That's about all the interaction you get. Instead of me being a fan of the series and screaming out Shining Finger as I attack my opponent, Shining Finger will be a command card that simply says deal 2 damage to enemy unit. Because that's all they've proven to really be able to do. Or maybe it'll be something like Giant Killing. Let's pull up Giant Killing from STO9. Giant Killing states level 4, 3 cost command card, spell card, essentially. Main or action, meaning it can be activated during the main phase or the action step. I won't get into the details of the different phases and steps for the sake of this topic, but choose one active enemy unit with 4 or less AP and destroy it. Or it could be Fatal Strike, which is a similar card that does a similar effect. Destroy a card of a certain level or less, or some type of restriction. And that would be Shining Finger. That's it. That's sad. Takes the joy out of the game. Because then I'm just using this effect randomly. Right? I'm just playing this command card that says Shining Finger on it, which doesn't attest anything. I don't have to have the Shining Gundam on the field. I don't have to have the God Gundam, aka Burning Gundam, on the field. I'm just playing this card. So when I talk about this being a void, let's say. A void of variety. This is what I'm talking about. It's not really a variety. Because there are tons of more examples I could give. But I feel like I've talked your ears off enough. So let's get into our closing thoughts. This is the shutdown. This is the end of the podcast. If you stayed with me this far, thank you. I had one goal with this Gundam card game, which was to win a major tournament, or at least top in the top 4 of a major tournament. Because I love Gundam. I have it around my room, on my phone, all over my gaming consoles and my Steam playlist. I love the Gundam franchise as a whole. And I love certain series more than others. But how can I get there? How can you get there? How can anyone get there with these level of restrictions that they have in place for the game? And that's something that needs to change. If they can add more support to more colors, add some more draw, which there already is draw technically in red and purple, but just add more of it, just generic support. Or maybe even do something like a colorless route. Pay 2, draw 1 card. Maybe a bad card, but it gives people options. Gives people a reason to build, right? If they were able to do that, I think that would be a better fix. A lot of people want to say, especially after Worlds, ban Armor Ray. He's too powerful. He's too strong. But is he really too powerful? Is he really that strong? Or is it just that we don't have any options? All Armor does is rest a card that has 5 or less health points. That's not powerful. You can't play Armor on the field. It's not putting him on the field taps down something and then he jumps into a mobile suit and attacks you. No, you have to have a mobile suit deployed on the field first and then attach him to one, right? So if you only have Armor Ray in your hand, it's a dead card. You're just waiting for something to put him on. If you have the resources to do it, right? That's not good deck diversity. Armor Ray is not the problem to the Gundam card game. It's the design flaws that are inherent in the card game itself, having a lack of support for the entire card game overall. I can't build the deck I want to build because I don't have the cards necessary in my colors to do it. So I'm forced to play one of 2 colors. I either have to build a deck around white in order to have draw, or blue in order to have draw. If I want to play something that blocks and protects my health, I have to play white or blue or purple. I have to play these colors. It's not a choice. I have to. And when you start taking the choice out of the player's hands and forcing them onto something that they are not comfortable with, or that is not in their aesthetic, or is not in their design choice, you create a vacuum. And that's the problem. The biggest problem with the Gundam card game is that it is a vacuum of choice, not an explosion of choice, not an exceptional amount of variety. It is just a vacuum. You have to play within these parameters in order to receive any type of success. And those are my closing statements. Thank you for listening to System Overload. If your systems are redlining, you're in the right place. I'll see you in the next deep dive. Take care and be safe.